Well, let's see. It's 6:20 now. Would you like to take some time and give a reading from the book?
Sure. I am going to start on chapter 19. Um, this is basically the first introduction of Worthy in the book, and that's all I'll say before I start reading. The train was slowing down, but not quite as much as Worthy had thought for watching it from her home. She crouched in the long grass next to the track, a pack made of a sack with ropes attached on her back. There, there's no going back now, girl, she told herself as she watched the train. She had changed into some pants her brother had outgrown for better running, but she had kept the skirt, stuffing it in the pack. She just couldn't bring herself to throw it away, telling herself it could be used for many things as an excuse to keep it. Picking an open train car, she started running. Sprinting to full speed, the train car still slowly slipped away from her. Realizing she was not running fast enough, she quickly formulated another plan. As the next open car came near, she removed the pack from back and threw it in the car as the open door approached. Unencumbered, she was able to run faster, pacing the rail car. The cargo car was an old-fashioned one that had a handrail and a step on the outside. Grabbing the handrail with her right hand helped her keep pace with the car. In one moment, she grabbed the rail with the other hand and jumped to put her foot on the step. She missed. Holding on with both hands, she pulled herself up and away from the ground, fearing an entanglement that would cause her to fall. Frantically kicking her legs, she managed to get her left foot into the step and stand on one foot. Sighing relief, she took a deep breath and looked up. The bridge was a lot closer than she expected. The heavy metal fencing along the side was fast approaching and did not look to leave room for someone to stand outside the train while on the bridge. Gulping, Worthia did a shoulder roll into the open door, rolling over once completely before stopping. The metal fencing rushed by as she lay on the wood flooring. Taking several deep breaths, Worthia tried to force her heart to beat slower. Turning her head slowly, Turning her head showed her pack within arm's reach. Looking upward, she said a prayer of thanks. I made it, she said softly. And what do we have here? An old male voice said from the back of the car. Raising to her elbows, Worthia looked in the direction of the voice. A large crate occupied most of the back half of the car, but room was left behind the crate and the walls, enough for someone to walk along. But just then she noticed a smell, one like straw that had been left in the barn too long and desperately needed to be cleaned out. She coughed once. Footsteps started coming toward the crate. Well, my. We have another rider, don't we? The shape was hard to make out with so little light making it behind the crate. He appeared to be as tall as a man, but was loosely defined as if he was wearing a lot of worn clothes. And a girl to boot. I don't get many visitors on these trips. Where are you going, honey? East, Worthy replied, keeping her eye on the moving pile of clothes. Well then, you're in the right car. Curious having a girl on the train. Let's make a look at you. The man who came from behind the crate looked old, older than her father. This could have been his from the red clothes and unwashed appearance, but Worthy doubted it. His mouth was full of black and missing teeth. His face held more dirt than her brother's shoes, and the smell increased as he drew closer. Worthy took a quick glance outside, out of reflex, but the train was picking up speed rapidly. Having navigated across the bridge, jumping from the train would be dangerous, plus she would never catch another on this side of the bridge. How old are you, girlie? Worthy remained silent. Oh, come on, talk to me. I never get anyone to talk, or other things. Tell old George about yourself. The man kept coming, not fast but not stopping. Worthia stayed where she was. There was nowhere to run anyway. She thought hard about the situation. Here, let George take a look at you. You might have hurt yourself getting in the car, mightn't you? Just have a quick look. As the man got close, he tried to pounce on Worthia. Bringing up her feet, the man landed on the bottom of her feet while she grabbed his wrist with her hands. Twisting to her right, she pushed with her feet. The man's face filled with surprise as he fell at the door, quickly disappearing from view. Didn't count on me having brothers who liked to roughhouse, did you? She shouted out the door with spite. Breathing deeply for the first time after the man was gone, the stench overwhelmed Worthia, causing her to gasp. She crawled, coughing, to the opposite side and breathed in fresh air. Once she had recovered, she removed her shoes and set them at the back end of the door. Then she recovered her pack and moved to the front end of the door. The wind was getting stronger, too strong to lay in front of the opening. The front of the car was occupied by another large crate, an area as wide as the door in the middle, the only unoccupied space. Moving between the wall and the crate, Worthia made a pillow from her pack and lay down, the skirt proving it was in the pack. As she lay her head in the pack, weariness overtook her. It was still early in the evening, but her eyes felt the need to close. An hour would pass before anyone missed her at home, and by that time the train would be too far for anyone to consider. As a small bit of wind that made up between the wall and the crate fluffed her hair, Worthia relaxed and fell to sleep, somehow more at peace than she had been for months. By the time the door automatically closed, the sensor detecting a sufficient drop in odor in the car, she was fully asleep. The slowing of the train awoke Worthia. She dug in a large amount of sand from her eyes as she rose. What time is it? Looking around, she noticed the doors were closed, but strong light leaked in through the cracks. Can I have slept all night? Picking up her pack, Worthia removed the water bottle and took a long drink. She thought about the food beside her. The train felt as if it was coming to a stop. Standing, she tried to look out the space between the doors, but it was not wide enough to show anything meaningful. Sitting down so she wouldn't fall when the train stopped, she decided she could only wait. Doors don't open here. I guess I'll have to wait till the next stop. The train stopped with a small jerk. Next, she heard air escaping from underneath the train, then silence. The silence seemed to stretch out, but then the car. She told her panic that it was fine because she needed someone to open the doors anyway, but her panic refused. Waited. Soon, an electronic-sounding click came from the door next to her, and it opened. Okay, a somewhat deep Mill's voice said, get in there and find out what the heck they sent us today. A young man in green outfit jumped into the car. He was about as old as Worthia's oldest brother, maybe 20, and was very fit. The outfit looked like a uniform with pockets in the front of the shirt, and he had on some kind of boots. Let's see, Ian, looking in. We have, whoa! Whoa, what? The voice came from outside. You got to see this to believe it. The young man approached Worthia and held out his hand in a gentle manner. Okay, darling, no one is going to hurt you here. Let me help you up. The man did not smell like the old man had, and he was definitely cleaner. He smiled, a kind smile, and stopped his hand about 2 feet from Worthia, waiting for her to take it. She didn't feel anything threatening from him, but reminded herself to still be careful. Slowly taking the man's hand, she let him help her to her feet and lead her to the door. What the? A man standing in front of the door on the ground said. He was bigger than the 5 others who stood around him, and his clothes had some stripes on the shoulder. How the hell did you get in there? And with the language he used, he didn't seem mean or harsh. Worthia had heard that people spoke with more cursing outside in the world but had never been exposed to it. Help her down, boys. Can't leave her in there. All 5 young men rushed to help Worthia down from the car. It shocked her at first, but then she took hold of 2 hands and they lowered her to the ground. All the men stared at her like they hadn't seen a girl before. It was a little unnerving. Sergeant, is this my construction supplies? Came another voice from behind the circle of guys. The big man turned and others followed with reluctant looks. I won't know until I unbox it, Sergeant replied. I sure hope so. I've been waiting days for that stuff, and I've been told it was really available now. The voice stopped when the man came in view. He was old as Sergeant, older than the others, but wasn't dressed in green. He wore blue jeans and a collared shirt, had 3 buttons at the top. Plus, he wasn't wearing boots, but some kind of soft, low shoe. The thing caught Worthy's attention most was his eyes, more exactly around his eyes. They didn't look the same as everybody else's. The man sighed, tilted his head, and put his hands on his hips. Okay, which one of you mooks ordered a female? The question brought laughter from the young men around her. It was pleasant laughter, not mean, but she still felt her cheeks getting warmer. I think you ordered the wrong model, though, the man continued. This one looks too new. More laughter followed. Looks like a runaway, Sergeant said. First refugees we got on a train, though. Worthy's mind went into full throttle. Yes, I'm a refugee. I request sanctuary. There you go, the man said. She said the magic word. Now we can't put her back on the train. So, Sergeant Harrow, what are you going to do with her? Worthy took a deep breath and slowly let it out. Her nerves seemed to settle. I was hoping you'd take her to the induction center for me, the sergeant said, raising an eyebrow. Unless you want me to slow down unloading these cars by having one of my men do it. Man, things I do for you. Fine, I'll take her. But you get moving on these cars, and if my material shows up, make sure you put it where I can get to it. Of course, Mr. Gant, the sergeant turned to her and swooshed his hand. Little lady, if you please. Hesitantly at first, Worthia walked past the young man towards Joseph. She smiled at him. He smiled at her and bowed. Pleased to meet you, Ms. Corella. Worthia Corella. She smiled at the man's formality. Pleased to meet you, Mr. Gint. Joseph, came the reply as Joseph rose and started walking away from the train car, inviting Worthia to join him with a wave. That's a biblical name, Worthia says as she walked. Jewish, actually. My dad's best friend it was a Jew, and I was named after him. Oh, did Worthia stop before asking a question? Worthia is an unusual name, one I'm pretty sure I haven't heard before. Is it a family name? Sort of. My mother liked making up meaningful names. And let me guess, Worthia means worthy of something. Yes, Worthia said, taking a breath before speaking more. Worthy of God. So you're a Puritan. Is it that obvious? She gave him a weak smile. I was raised a Puritan, but you don't know if you want to be one? I don't know anything else, but then I haven't been told anything else. Is that why you left? No. He took a couple of steps before answering. It did feel good to have someone to talk to that wasn't telling her she was wrong all the time. I'm 16, and in 2 years I'm expected to marry. At 18? The amount of surprise in the question was huge. That is when girls normally get married, at least in our community. I really didn't want to end up married to some farmer, so I decided to leave. They exited the rail yard, beyond where roads and new-looking buildings. Almost everyone wore the green uniform-like clothes. A few wore long white coats. Where are you from, then? When Worthia didn't answer right, the man said, Give me a state at least. Idaho. Worthia replied tentatively. She didn't notice that the man had stopped walking for a step or two. She stopped and turned toward him. Idaho? The man laughed. You're a long way from home, aren't you? It's no longer my home, Worthia said with a firm voice. I'm going to stay here. Wherever I land will be my home. The man laughed, started walking. Give credit to a girl with a determination. You know, I have a friend that I think you would and her would get along famously. Worthia waited to talk again, then seemed to be headed toward a white building closer to the gate. Can I ask you what is an induction center? It's like a greeting center, where new people go first to get registered and such. The man turned and smiled at her. Don't worry, I know the woman who works there. She's really nice, particularly if you give her chocolate. I don't have any chocolate. It wasn't allowed. Too expensive, they say. Oh, don't worry, the man laughed. I keep her supplying chocolate most of the time. Where will they send me? Worthia asked a question. I'm sure they'll keep you here. Not like we've established somewhere to send refugees. You're lucky. We haven't received that many yet. Is there work here? I can work for my stay. Work? Heck, more than you can shake a stick at, whatever that means. My mother said it all the time, though. When she took a stick at you, it wasn't work. It was because you did something wrong. First, though, you had to receive an education. My parents taught me what was necessary at home. Necessary? Doesn't seem that they felt much was necessary. Leila worked the ground while she said it. Don't worry, we can catch you up on your studies. Here. Men opened the door, letting Worthia walk in first. The room was nothing like she'd seen before. There were tables and chairs, pictures that floated in the air, people milling about, and lots of sound. Everything was clean, and there was no smoke from fires. In fact, the room was warm enough, though there was no fireplace or stove. Madge, the man said as he walked in, I have a refugee for you. A dark woman walked around the table and came toward him. And where did you find this little one? She hopped a train from the west. Oh, dear child, why did you do such a thing like that? You could have been hurt. The woman's round face looked concerned. I would like sanctuary, Worthia said. Sanctuary? What could you possibly need sanctuary for? Don't worry, the man said. When you hear your story, you'll agree. Bless you, child. Come this way. I'll get you all processed right away, and then we can get you into a shower and some proper clothes. With hot water? Worthia asked. Of course, honey. Where have you been living? Madge, just interrupted. How are you doing with living spaces for the new entries? Madge got closer to him, and she spoke quietly. With all the new people the Army's been sending us, we're starting to have to ask people to take in new arrivals. It would really help if you get some new apartments made. People aren't used to being so crowded. Don't worry, she's just a little girl. I'm sure we can find a spot for her. Thanks, I appreciate it. Seems to be a smart kid. You just let Madge take care of things. Madge gave him a slap on the shoulder and turned to Worthia. Now come on, dear. We have a smidgen of paperwork to fill out, and then we'll get you that shower and new clothes. You want me to stop there?
Sure. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you.